It's Wednesday, May 27th, 2015, and this is the Product Mentor Talk. Today we'll be joined by one of our mentors, Dustin Levy, Director of Product Management at Gentex Corporation, to lead a talk on leadership and influence for product managers. And so for those of you joining us for the first time, let me just briefly describe the format. So these talks come out of a program called the Product Mentor, where we find product mentors and mentees, people that excel and people that are looking to get better in the world of product management, and we pair them up. One of the things that all the mentors do in this program is they put together a talk in an area of expertise, and we share it with the mentors and mentees in the program. We also open it up to everyone else who couldn't make it into the program. We have a lot of mentees looking to get in, and it's a very hard program to get into, and so we like to make these talks available to the rest of the world. And so definitely feel free to ask questions, post them up. And feel free to join us. And so what you see on the bottom of your screen are other mentors and mentees and group mentors in the program. Hey guys, if you could just wave hi for a second for me. There we go. Can't see Jonathan waving hi, but I know he's there. And so before I kind of go into the rest of a little bit about the format and participating, what I like to do is just kind of go around, do some introductions to the people in the program. And I'm going to start on the bottom, on the part of my screen, and I'm going to start with Sean. So Sean, if you could just tell us, are you a mentor or mentee, a little bit about yourself, and then we'll kind of go down the list.
Hey guys, I'm Sean. I am Dustin's mentee, and a little background on myself. I currently work at a user experience design agency. Just looking to move into more of a product management position. And just looking forward to learn as much as I can. I'm excited to have Dustin present today. We've had an amazing 2 talks so far, so I'm excited to hear what he has to share.
Excellent. And Jordan.
Hi, I'm Jordan Bertram. I head a product management team for a B2B SaaS company. I'm one of the group leaders for Group 3, and I'm not afraid to cry, and I like long walks on the beach.
And you look very relaxed.
Very.
Yes. And Jonathan, if you could unmute yourself, and also we can't see you.
Is that better?
Yep.
Yeah, sorry, I was trying to manage bandwidth. Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Jonathan. I am one of the mentors in session 3. My mentee is Sabina. I am currently a director of product management at a New York-based startup called Schoology. We are in education technology, and I'm really excited to hear the first talk.
Excellent. And to Jay.
Hey everyone, this is Jay Fox. I am a mentee in the program, and Dan Mason is my mentor. Really excited. I've had a great few sessions, already learned a lot from Dan, and I work at a company called The Deal. It's a media and data analysis company, and happy to be here.
Excellent. And to Felix.
Hi everyone, my name is Felix Sargent. I'm a product manager over here at Bloomberg, and I work on software that it's basically like the NSA for banks, where we help try to uncover insider traders. I am a mentor for Sanket in Group 3.
Awesome. Dustin.
I'm Dustin Levy. I'm the Director of Product Management at Gentex Corporation. We're a military hardware supplier. I'm Sean's mentor for the session, and I look forward to speaking to all of you today.
Outstanding. And Dan?
Hi everyone, I'm Dan. I am a product manager, a director of product at a media company. I'm actually a mentee, always looking to learn new tricks.
Anthony.
Hey guys, I'm Anthony. I'm a mentee with Paul Horowitz. I'm currently a product manager, and I've been a product manager for about a year at Vitals, which is a healthcare tech company, and I work on our B2B SaaS platform for health plans.
Great. And Andrew.
Hey everyone, my name is Andrew. I'm a product manager at Verizon. and I work on their My Files app. I'm excited for this first session.
Awesome. And so then for everyone else who's joining us who didn't fit into the Google Hangout channel or just joining us from the rest of the internet, definitely feel free to post your questions. As the questions come in, I see them in real time, and I'll try to pass them on to Dustin as he goes through his questions. And so just join us. If you're joining us from you might be joining us from a lot of different places, but the place to post your questions as well as watch the live stream at the same time is by visiting us at theproductmentor.com/live. And as the questions come in, I'll be passing them on. And a little bit about myself. I am Jeremy Horn, a.k.a. the Product Guy, and I'll be moderating this event. We're always looking for more mentors in the program. Our next session is going to hopefully start in November. And we're targeting November 1st, and we'd love to get a lot more mentors in the program. We're hoping to launch that one with 45 mentors. So hope to see a lot more happy, smiling faces along the bottom of the screen, and a lot more mentors doing their talks. So with all that said, I'm going to hand it over to Dustin and let him take it away.
Thanks, Jeremy. So I chose this topic of leadership and influence because I think in my experience, most product managers, they get a comfort level pretty quickly in talking about technology, customers, and markets. But leadership and influence are really essential parts of the job in order to work effectively inside of our organizations. So I hear this quite a bit from product managers when they talk about their challenges, and many product managers, they lament the fact that we're asked to lead with authority. It means that if our ability to lead and influence is completely dependent on our use of control and authority, we're not going to be successful in this role. I happen to be in a role now where I do have direct managerial authority over several individuals, but leading without exercising authority is still an essential skill, even when you're managing direct reports. This is because top-down management is really a thing of the past, and particularly in work environments where we are reliant on the creativity of others, a top-down management style simply doesn't work. The message is that even if you were king and all of a sudden all of the people that you depend on as a product manager reported directly to you, you would still need to lead them without exercising authority. So leadership and influence are skills that we all need to learn early in our careers and continue to improve as we move on to bigger and better things. So I'm going to use the terms management, leadership, and influence quite a bit during this presentation, so I want to talk a bit about some working definitions for these terms just to ground us. So a manager is somebody who is task-oriented. A manager has the authority to control behavior through compensation. What a manager controls is giving out equal pay for a job well done. What a manager can't do is get an individual to outperform their paycheck. That requires leadership. And for us as product managers to get accomplished the things that we're trying to accomplish, we often need those around us to outperform their paychecks. And that's why leadership is so important to us. A working definition for a leader is somebody who is people-oriented, ability to guide work efforts, create a feeling in others that they are valuable contributors, and provide the support and freedom needed to succeed. So to some of you, that might sound a bit soft. But if you think about what motivates creative people tend to value autonomy and the freedom to innovate. Creative people don't want to spend all of their time being told what to do. They want a leader who's able to create a vision and an environment where they can be successful. And a product manager can create that environment without using direct managerial authority. Finally, an influencer is somebody who has the ability to gain agreement or support for an opinion or perspective without having to exercise authority. That environment that a leader creates is really the foundation for their ability to influence. And like leadership, Influencing requires you to be people-oriented, not task-oriented. So a key takeaway here is that leadership and influence are essential to being able to move a team forward and achieving higher goals. And as product managers, we're uniquely positioned to create that environment, even though we lack direct managerial authority in most cases. So a common question that you hear is whether or not leaders are naturally born, or if leadership is something that we can learn during our lifetimes. And I think the consensus is that most people are born with certain personalities that make leadership come more naturally to them. However, all leaders are shaped highly by experiences early in their lives and careers. And this means that everybody can learn quality leadership styles simply by committing themselves to it. So each of us have entered the workforce with a leadership style that was influenced by experiences early in our lives. And so we all have a foundation to work from. Where we learn leadership is from members of our family, from our friends, from the cultures that we're raised in. A lot of us get our leadership style from religion. The people that we learn from are teachers. Those of us who have been involved in athletics, we learn leadership there. And then military service is where a lot of our leaders come from as well.
Hey Dustin, I just had a question come in. I wanna throw it over to Jay to ask his question. Jay?
Yeah, I'm interested, Dustin, in some kind of what are the leadership or influence books or blogs or people you follow that have helped you on a day-to-day basis?
Great question. So I think the next to last slide of the deck, I'm going to recommend some books. I've had a few that I've read that I think are really relevant to leading in the product management environment. So if you want to hold that thought, I'm going to answer it later on in the deck.
All right, will do. Thanks.
Thanks.
Cool. I'll let you take it away from there, Dustin.
Great. Flip back. So an important message is that we all have developed a leadership style, but the leadership styles we've developed early in our careers may or may not work in the product management environment.
Hey Dustin, if you're showing us the slides, we're not seeing them right now.
Okay, try again. I didn't double click. How's that?
Yeah, we're good.
So if the leadership style that we've learned early in our lives is one that's completely based on a top-down style based on exercising control and authority, then we're really going to find ourselves challenged the first time one of our cross-functional team members says to us, I don't want to do that, or my boss doesn't want me to do that. We can only navigate those situations if we have strong leadership and influencing skills. On the flip side, if the leadership style that we enter product management with is too soft and all we're doing is creating a country club atmosphere and we're not driving accountability to others, then milestones aren't going to be met and our bosses are going to be very unhappy with us. So what we're really looking for is something in the middle ground, something that is not based entirely on top-down control, but also isn't so soft that we don't drive accountability to others around us. So in the next few slides, I'm going to take you through my own journey throughout my career, leading me to my current role in product management, and use myself as a case study in leadership. Many of us, like myself, enter the product management role from a technical background, and what we end up learning is that some of the things that make us successful in a technical role don't always make us successful in product management. And that's because the responsibilities and the measures of success are very different between these two roles. As we move through these roles in our career, what you see is that there's a need to adapt to the measurement systems and the environment around us. So in my case, I have a bachelor's degree in chemistry, I then went on to get a doctorate in physical chemistry. And those of you who don't know what physical chemistry is, if you are able to pass organic chemistry, physical chemistry is your reward for doing that. So it's what comes next. And so I spent 5 more years of graduate school actually studying in that field, and then went on to do a postgraduate research project with a government laboratory. So what measured success when I was in this environment was demonstrating expertise. It was authoring publications. Everybody in a technical field in graduate school knows that the way potential employers and other universities measure how successful you are is by the number of original peer-reviewed publications that you've written. So I was successful in that environment, and then was offered an opportunity to use the same technical skills that I had been developing in a product development environment with a company called Smith's Detection. And at Smith's, we were manufacturing products that required mechanical, electrical, and software engineering all wrapped up in one single product. So these were rather complex product developments that we were doing with a lot of people involved. My role as a product developer, again, was to be the technical expert for the product. So I was measured based on my expertise, and I was very comfortable with this because it was what I was doing when I was a graduate student. Another important measure was task execution. So my ability to complete tasks on time and keep product development on schedule was another way that I was measured. And I put here that there was a dash of collaboration. So in the R&D environment, we talk a lot about the need to collaborate, yet when you actually look at how a lot of product developers and engineers are actually measured, they're really measured based on their expertise and their ability to execute. And you're measured for the most part by your individual contribution, not necessarily your team leadership. At Smith's, I then had the opportunity to move into a product management role where I got to manage the same products that I had had a hand in developing. And so now my measurements system and my measure of success was based on our ability to bring products to market on time. And instead of being measured in terms of my own individual execution, I was measured more along my ability to get a cross-functional team of people to execute so that we could bring products to market on time. I spent about 6.5 years at Smith's Detection and then took a role with my current company, Gentex Corporation, as the Director of Product Management. And now I'm measured in terms of P&L ownership, people leadership, and development. Now I'm responsible for a team of product managers. And I'm also responsible for implementing best practices so that the overall product management function in our company can continue to improve. So the point I'm trying to make here is that as I've moved through these roles, I've needed to adapt my leadership style. And if you don't adapt as you move from a technical world to a product management world, this progression will involve a lot of speed bumps. There'll be some lateral moves. There might be some regressions in your career. And if you don't adapt, then you might never reach your full potential.
So we just had a question come in from Felix. So Felix, I'm going to throw it over to you to ask your question.
Okay. So how do you know when you're being too soft on your team? I see a lot of product managers freak out and try to be like, you do this, do that, do that. But what if you're being too soft on your team, but the work's getting done anyway because it's not just you working in an environment, but you know, how do you know if you're being a good hands-off product manager and setting clear guidance, and how do you know if you're lazy?
So I think if the work's
Dustin, we can't see you.
Oh, sorry, let me flip. I was trying to cheat since I didn't want to make another mistake. How's that? So I think if the work's getting done and products are coming to market and your customers are happy, then I wouldn't spend much time thinking whether your leadership style was too soft or not. I tend to to recommend that people focus on outcomes. And ultimately, the outcome you want is to have your team be happy, enjoying their work, and taking care of your customers. And if all that's happening, you're probably doing a good job of leadership. Whether it's too soft or too hard, the outcome is right.
Rough them up a little bit. Black eye here and there.
Thanks.
Once in a while. Not every day.
All right. Cool. All right. That's all the questions we have at the moment.
So there's a good recent article in Harvard Business Review that talks about this need for leaders to adapt. And the title of the article was The Authenticity Paradox. And we would generally say that authenticity is probably a good trait for a leader to have. But the point that the authors make in the article is that by striving to be authentic, we can make ourselves too rigid. There's a good quote in the article that makes this point, and it says that countless books and advisors tell you to start your leadership journey with a clear sense of who you are, but that can be a recipe for staying stuck in the past. Your leadership identity can and should change each time you move on to bigger and better things. So a good frame of mind that I would recommend is that you should always stick to a core set of values. Those core set of values make you who you are. That's what makes you authentic. And everything outside of those core values should be considered flexible and adaptable to your environment. And if you enter a leadership role with that frame of mind, you will be able to adapt and adjust to your environment and lead the team. So with that, I've adapted from time to time. And again, part of me using myself as a case study here, I'm going to walk you through a few of the leadership styles that I've used throughout my career and talk about when they worked and when they didn't work. So my first dominant leadership style was based on leading through expertise. And this is what I learned in graduate school, because in graduate school, students are measured by what they know. People talk about the importance of collaboration in the academic environment, but students aren't measured that way. You're taking a graduate school exam. For me, it involved being in front of 4 or 5 professors, and they would pepper you with questions designed to uncover what you do and don't know. And your collaborators are no help when you're in that exam because they're not in the room with you. And so the people who are successful in that environment are those who are able to demonstrate high levels of expertise. Another example, if you've ever been to a technical scientific meeting where researchers are giving presentations to a broad audience, you listen to the questions that people ask from the audience. Some of those questions are born out of a natural curiosity. And then you see other individuals who ask questions just with the intent of showing that they're smarter than the speaker. And this is something that happens very commonly in the scientific world, and it's what I grew up in, so I learned how to play the game. So leading via expertise worked very well when I was a researcher. It worked okay when I was a developer because I was still measured based on my level of technical expertise. When I went into product management, this style didn't work well at all. As an example of where it broke down, the first time I wrote a product requirements document, I did it all on my own. So I went out and I talked to all of our customers, did thorough research on our customer needs and market trends, and I wrote up that product requirements document, and it was a great document. It was a great piece of work. And I handed it off to our product development team, and for the most part, they ignored it. And for a couple months, we banged our heads against the wall without any progress being made. And finally, I scheduled a meeting with our engineering functional managers, and they let me know what the problem was. They told me that my team had a combined 100+ years of experience with our products and customers, and the problem was that I never consulted with them when I was creating the product requirements document. So my tendency to lead through expertise caused me to assume that I had all the answers instead of listening to the ideas of the members of my team. what I was doing when I wrote the document was I was trying to demonstrate to everybody else how smart I was, instead of working collaboratively with the team to get their buy-in. So that was a bit of a shock, because this told me that a leadership style that had been successful for me for almost 10 years was no longer going to work now that I took a role in product management. And so what you do at this point is you search for other leadership styles that have worked in the past that you're comfortable with.
Hey, so Dustin, I just had a few questions just come in. I'm gonna come. They came in from the rest of the world. So one of the questions is from Ruka, if I'm saying it correctly. First question Ruka asked was, how were you measured on P&L, earned versus spent, or something more sophisticated?
So it's earned and spent. So it's, it comes all the way down to gross margin is the final number. So there's obviously there's revenue and cost that goes into that. The R&D expenditure folds into that. G&A, selling expenses.
Okay. Ruka also had another question. The question was, and I'm gonna tweak the language a little bit. Does leadership mean different things in different contexts? For example, is leadership different in a large enterprise versus in a small startup?
So my opinion would be that it's not. That leadership, it comes down to how you interact with people, and regardless of whether you're in a large enterprise or a startup, I think the work is very different, but the leadership skills and the tactics you apply from that perspective, I think, would always be the same.
Cool. Awesome. Great answers. So that's all the questions I have, so feel free to continue.
Okay. So next is leading by example, and where I learned this one growing up was in athletics. When sports, I wasn't the rah-rah, in-your-face type of motivator to my teammates. I was the kind of player who quietly did the right thing, who outworked others, and set an example for them to follow. And this worked in that environment. A lot of people, I think, would have said that I was a good leader when I was participating in athletics. This worked really well because it was a competitive environment. And when you're playing on an athletic team, individuals don't like to be outcompeted by others. And so by setting that example, I was able to raise the performance of others around me. So I assumed that the same approach would now work in new product development. So I worked to set an example by working harder than all of my team members. I effectively decided to compete against them. I worked longer hours than they did, and I paid attention to really insignificant things like who was arriving at the office after me and who was leaving before me. All of this was pretty exhausting, and I wasn't very efficient when I was doing this because I was paying attention to things that really weren't adding any value to the company. In essence, I was working hard but not smart. And it turns out that all of this effort really didn't have any positive impact on team performance. What I was doing was I was assuming that a behavior that motivates me would also motivate those around me. If I see somebody, because I'm a naturally competitive person, if there's somebody around me outworking me, that causes me to work harder. But that motivator doesn't work for every individual. It works in competitive environments. It doesn't work as well in non-competitive environments. And so I was expending a lot of effort, but not really getting anything in return because I wasn't matching my motivation style to the things that motivate the people that I was working with. So that leads to a third leadership style. Now I'm at a point where team performance is really suffering. I don't have a clear vision on how to get higher performance out of this team of individuals, and I really haven't figured out how to lead as a product manager at this point. So I come up with this third style that I call gap filling. And what this is a combination of leading via expertise and example. It's well-intentioned. The thought process here is my team is struggling, so I'm going to roll up my sleeves and I'm going to pitch in and do some work. But what the team perceives is that what I'm doing is I'm using my expertise and my hard work ethic to show other people that because they can't seem to do their job the right way, I'm going to step in and do it for them. I'm going to show them how smart I am and how hardworking I am and show them how to do their job better. That's how it looked to other people, whether it was my intention or not. So there's two issues with this approach. One, if as a product manager, if you step in and do other people's jobs for them, they will start to assume that you or somebody else will do their job for them in the future. So you don't really drive team accountability when you do other people's work for them. You really degrade people when you're doing this. This isn't a motivator for people. For somebody to step in and show them a better way to do their job doesn't motivate a lot of people. It actually demotivates. The second issue is that when I was spending my time doing other people's work for them, that was time I wasn't spending out in the field with our sales team, with our customers, fulfilling all of the other product management responsibilities. So now I'm at a point where I'm not really driving any accountability to the team, and my own performance is suffering because I'm tied up in the office too much. So I think a lot of product managers fall into this gap-filling type of role. And part of the reason I think this happens is that product managers have a lot of strong traits. We're very high performers, and we have a tendency to want to conquer the world and do a lot of things ourselves because we can. When what we really need to be doing is spending our energy to raise the performance of those around us. Some of the common traits that we tend to share as product managers are that we tend to be intelligent, we tend to be self-motivated, we're hardworking, a lot of us are competitive, and a lot of us early in our careers have been rewarded for superior individual performance. And when we take these traits and we misapply them, it can make us less tolerant of others' ideas, less tolerant of other work styles that are different than ours. We may not understand what motivates the people on our team, and we may reject behaviors that are incompatible with ours. And all of this is detrimental to team performance and to our performance as leaders. So I happen to be fortunate. I've had a lot of good leaders and coaches around me, and I've been smart enough to listen to them. I think that's what's great about this program that we're in here, is it's all an opportunity for us to learn from each other. And I was fortunate to get some really good lessons from some good leaders as I was at this point in my career. So the first big idea that I'll present that helped me shift my perspective on how to be a leader was that leadership and influence requires us to be other-centric instead of self-centric. Early in my career, I was very focused on my own individual performance. But to be a true leader, we need to focus on the potential of others, not ourselves. Now, making this shift requires a lot of self-confidence, because what we're doing is we're taking a leap of faith that by making others around us better, that we'll become better ourselves. The second idea is that we need to approach work.
Before you jump too much into that second idea, I just had a few other questions just kind of pop in. First one I'm going to send to you came from Ruka again. And I wanted to get to the question before we went too far away from that slide. In case of the third style that you mentioned earlier, would a change in style really make a difference without changing the underlying problem?
So I think when we get to the point where I'm presenting what I think is the best style for a product management to operate in, I think I'll take you through how the right leadership style will help you address the underlying problems. So if you hold up a couple slides, I think we're getting there.
Perfect. All right, I'm gonna. We have a few other questions. I'm gonna save them for a little bit later in the in your talk. So take it away.
All right. So the second idea is that we need to approach work situations and conflicts from a perspective that our team members are inherently good, talented people, that they want to do a good job, and they will do a good job when they have a conducive work environment. If you tell a child that they're no good at mathematics, and you keep reinforcing that point, guess what? They're going to grow up to be bad at mathematics. If we assume that underperforming people are incompetent, then we'll get what we're looking for. If we go into these situations under the assumption that people have talents, and when working with them, we engage with them to understand what is causing them to underperform, we can then partner with them to start to seek out solutions that will allow their performance to improve. Now, this probably sounds soft, and early in my career, this would have sounded very soft to me. But remember, you don't have direct managerial authority over these underperforming individuals. You likely don't have authority over who is on your team. Often, your team is chosen by functional managers within the organization. So you can't dock these individuals' pay, you can't fire them. In a lot of cases, you can't kick them off of your team. The only thing you can really do is lead them and coach them. When doing this, you can and you should partner with their manager, but you can't be their manager. You're not the person who controls their pay. The third idea is the clearest definition of leadership that I've ever heard. And to me, it really represents the essence of this idea of being other-centric. And the statement that somebody told me was that followers follow leaders because leaders help followers do and get things they couldn't without the leader. So we often think that leaders go out and they choose their followers. But in fact, it's the other way around. Followers choose their leaders, and followers choose leaders who can help them accomplish things they couldn't on their own. I know if I think about who I followed in my life, it was always for this reason. I followed people who could help me accomplish things I couldn't by myself. So this means that it's really the followers that have the control. It's not you as the leader. And the more people that choose to follow you, the more successful you are going to become. So all of this led to a fourth leadership style, and this is the one that I spend most of my time using today, and it's called servant leadership. And once I learned what this was, I realized that during my life and my early career, I had followed a lot of servant leaders. I just never put a name to it. And what servant leadership does is it flips the conventional wisdom that bosses control subordinates. And instead, it says that leaders serve their followers. Leaders help followers accomplish things that they couldn't on their own. In my experience, creative and innovative people really gravitate to servant leaders because servant leaders offer vision and they provide autonomy to others. And so some general statements on what servant leadership looks like. Leaders serve their followers instead of trying to control them. Leaders, instead of just focusing on task execution, they also understand the personal needs of their followers. So they focus not just on the tasks, but they focus on the needs of the individuals who are performing those tasks. Leaders help followers accomplish what they couldn't on their own, and they do this primarily by removing obstacles to let their followers' talents shine through. In return, followers earn greater autonomy and they obtain more creative freedom. And in exchange for that, as the leader, our expectation is that those followers now take ownership of their work and they're held accountable for it. The accountability is what keeps this from being too soft. The message to the follower is, as the leader, I'm going to give you some autonomy, I'm going to give you some creative freedom, but I'm also going to hold you accountable for the results. Servant leaders also make sure that they reward their followers for great performance. That's an essential part of leadership. When all this works, followers make their leaders look really good. And a result of that, by creating this environment, is that new leaders emerge from the ranks. And as the leader, if you are developing good leadership skills in those around you, that allows you to someday move on to bigger and better things and not leave a sinking ship behind. So this allows you to move on to new responsibilities in your career and still feel good about what you're leaving behind. So to follow up on the question on some recommended books, these are 4 books that I've read at various points in my career that I think gave me the most guidance on how to be a good leader as a product manager. I do recommend that these 4 books, that you read them in this order, because the lessons that they teach follow a logical progression along a leadership development pathway. So the first book is called The Extraordinary Leader. This is a great book for those of you who have a technical background, because it presents a very data-driven approach to leadership development. There's a lot of leadership books out there that seem to turn off technical readers because the leadership lessons are based a lot on anecdotal experience, a lot of opinion. But this is a book that's much more scientific. The main conclusion that the book makes is the researchers find that there are about 15 traits that make great leaders, but that those leaders that rate extraordinary on their scale really only excel in 3 of those traits. The message here is that we need to spend our time focusing on our strengths instead of always beating ourselves up for our weaknesses. We should put all of our energy into taking areas that we're good at and making ourselves great in those areas instead of addressing our weak points. There's 2 reasons that this works. One is that if you're strong in a few areas, people by association will give you credit for being strong in some of the other traits, even if you're average or even a little bit weak. So association helps you. The second reason this works is that if you're perceived as a great leader, others will be compelled to follow you. And now you have followers that you can use to complement your weaknesses. You can use your followers to fill your own gaps instead of spending all your energy in trying to fix your own weaknesses. So for me, where this book was really helpful is it told me that I didn't need to be great at everything to be perceived as a good leader. And early in my career, that was a great lesson to learn, and it caused me to focus on my strengths instead of always worrying about my weaknesses. The second book is Leading Without Authority. This book presents a model for influencing others regardless of your relative rank, experience, or title within your organizations. And one of the key points of the book is the principle of mutual exchange and reciprocity. We're able to influence others if they believe that by following our lead, they will get something of value in return. The key to all this is understanding what rewards matter to a given individual. If we assume that other people around us want to be rewarded the same way that we like to be rewarded, then we're likely going to miss the mark. We need to understand on an individual level what motivates individual people around us and how they like to be rewarded, and not assume that our own preferred reward system will work for them. What we need to do, the book says, is match what we are able to give as a reward to what the individuals on our team value as a reward. And by being able to exchange those currencies with the individuals on our team, we're able to influence and create these win-win situations for people. Guarantee you, if you read this book, it's very actionable. There will be things that when you put this book down, you'll be able to put them into practice the next day at work and instantly get better results and be a better influencer on day one. The third book is called What Got You Here Won't Get You There. This book talks about 20 behaviors that make us successful in roles as individual contributors but can destroy us as leaders. And I promise that you'll read this book and it will reveal some of your blind spots, and you'll feel a little bit embarrassed when you see this. It will reveal some blind spots that are probably the things that some of your coworkers are saying about you behind your back. My example was the authors talk about a behavior that they refer to as constantly adding value. Somebody would come to me with an idea, it could be for a new product or a process improvement, and instantly I would one-up them and suggest an even better idea. I learned this behavior as a scientific researcher. Scientists are always seeking out truth, and the way they do this is by constantly coming up with better ideas and theories. And in the scientific world, people are very comfortable with this one-upmanship of ideas. But when you step out of that scientific circle like I did, I had to learn that constantly one-upping people actually demotivates people, and it makes them feel like their ideas aren't as worthy and as valuable as my own. And so what I learned to do is, instead of instantly topping others with what I think is a better idea, before I even start down that path, I always acknowledge the value of the other person's idea before I ever start thinking about how to refine it. So that was a behavior that this book taught me to fix. And I think anybody who reads this would come up with a few things that they could instantly start working to be better at as soon as they put the book down. The last book is called The Servant, and this one I definitely recommend that you read last. This is actually a fictional story of your classic abrasive manager. I think it was a case of a manager from the financial services industry. And this individual goes on a leadership retreat and meets a monk who used to be just like this manager. They used to work in financial services. They were a top-down, controlling manager. And during the story, this monk who left the business world and devoted themselves to a life of religious service coaches this manager through the concepts of servant leadership. Now, if I had read this book straight out of graduate school, I would have thought it was ridiculous and thrown it right in the trash. But as I've come to understand how important it is to be cognizant of interpersonal relationships to get things done at work, this book really helped me tie this all together and develop a better leadership style. So now I'm going to wrap with some final thoughts. And the final thought is that all of us need to develop a leadership toolkit. And the reason the toolkit's important is that no single leadership style works in all situations. Particularly throughout our careers, as we move to different roles in different companies, the environment around us will change and our leadership style will need to adapt. Now, I've talked about, what I think the benefits of servant leadership are, but still from time to time, you need to be a little bit more top-down in your leadership. You need to be a little bit more assertive and aggressive than a servant leader might be. Sometimes I still lead through expertise by setting an example and by filling gaps. But now I do it in the context of servant leadership. So the wrong way to demonstrate your expertise is by using your expertise to show people that you are the smartest person in the room. That is not a good leadership behavior. But applying your expertise to help coach people so that those people can become better performers themselves is a good example of leadership. Filling gaps and doing other people's work for them when they haven't asked you to do it is stepping on other people's toes. That's not good leadership. Filling people's gaps when they've come to you and asked for help, and then helping them do their job better by coaching them through the work, is a great example of leadership. I recommend that you not be afraid to experiment with new leadership styles, particularly when the stakes are low. In order to develop this toolkit, we need to practice many different leadership tactics. I've given you a few that I've worked with in the past. It's better to do that practicing early in your career when the stakes are relatively low. You don't want to become CEO and all of a sudden realize that now you need to develop a new leadership style. As you move up the organization, you want to be constantly adding new leadership tools to your tool belt. And then finally, I think it's important to trust yourself and trust your people. You need to be willing and confident enough to take some risks, and you need to let go sometimes and let other people take risks. Now, letting people take risks that can put them in a position where they can damage their career or damage your company is not the right thing to do. What I'm talking about here are small risks that allow people to try out their own ideas, step out of their comfort zone, and grow a little bit. You need to create that environment for others and also challenge yourself to do the same. And I think if you, as a product manager, are able to create that type of open, creative environment, you'll be very impressed with the output that you can get from your teams. So with that, that concludes my slides. I'll go back live and take more questions.
I've got a bunch of questions for you. So the first question I've got for you comes from Abe, and Abe's question was, what if the only way to remove an obstacle in a certain situation is to fill it yourself?
So that can be a good short-term strategy. I don't think you want to make that the long-term solution. So absolutely, from time to time, we all need to fill a gap to make sure that things stay on schedule to keep our stakeholders happy. But that can't become a pattern. That needs to be something that you use sparingly, and while you're doing it, if you can coach others so that they can complete that task the next time it comes around, then you're setting yourself up for success. I think if product managers are stepping in and filling too many gaps themselves, they become overworked, they're not in front of the customer enough, and they're doing themselves and their organization a disservice.
Good, good. The next question goes to Sean. So Sean, let me throw it to you in the room. You're muted, Sean.
Hi guys. So my question is kind of along the lines of what kind of leadership style you have, but can you describe a specific horror story in more detail as to when applying the wrong leadership style, hindered you or cost you something?
Yeah, so one of my challenges at Smith's was about 3 years in with the company. I was responsible for defining the replacement product that would obsolete the product that had built the company and made it successful. And so I had to step in and get our team to pivot in a new direction. Had a product that was at the end of its life cycle. It was obsolete. Customers' needs had changed, and we needed to go in a different direction. And what I underestimated at the time was how much emotional investment the people who had created the original product had in that product. And so I stepped in, and I was the controlling type of product manager. And I stepped in and told everybody, what you did in the past was great, but the market has changed, and now we need to do this. And not a single person bought into that. And we made no progress for several months. What eventually worked was, instead of me collecting data from the market and defining the product, I needed to take a step back and actually give our product developers the raw data and expose them directly to some of our customers. So we brought our product developers into focus groups. We took them on site visits so that they could interact and hear firsthand what our customers were saying. And then I had to give them the freedom to take that data and start to come up with some of their own ideas about how to best address this change in the market. Shocking to me, a lot of the ideas they came up with were better than mine. And at first, that scared me, but then I learned that as the product manager, you can't focus on yourself, you need to focus on the output of the team. And it didn't matter that good ideas were coming from other people. As long as we were getting the right ideas, the team was going to be successful, and I was going to be successful. So that was an example where we were going in the completely wrong direction, and I had enough sense to listen to some good people who set me on the right path.
Thanks.
Great. And so we've got another question. Let's see. How have you evangelized your product within the organization?
So I think focusing on the customer experience, to me, is one of the best ways to do it. So if I can get our developers and other people involved in other functions that have some contribution to our product offering, to empathize with our customers, to understand our customers' needs, and sharing with them when we do things that delight our customers, to me, that's the best way to bring that real perspective of your customers and let your team know when your customer's happy. I think that really motivates people to continue to improve your product line and just strive to create more value for your company and your customers.
Great, great. The next question goes to Jonathan.
Yep. Hey, so thanks for all those points, and I wanted to ask you a little bit more about the diving in and filling the gap versus acting as a servant. And can you give an example of the difference between when is it acting as a servant and when is it filling a gap?
So it's definitely acting as a servant if somebody has reached out and asked for help, because now you are stepping in and you are creating a coaching opportunity and you're helping to develop the person. And in the course of that, you are able, but by investing that time, you can build a relationship with them and set the accountability with them that the next time the expectation is that they're going to be able to complete the work on their own. When it's not acting as a servant is when you're frustrated about the way somebody is doing their job, and so you dive in and do the work for them. That's what demotivates a person and creates a situation where you don't drive accountability into them, and they may, the next time, just sit back and wait for the product manager to step in, because if the product manager is just going to go in and correct the work in the end anyway, why should they expend the effort in the first place?
Great. I'm going to hand over to Dan for the next question.
Yeah, I'm just interested in hearing whether there was a time when you've actually given up, that you felt somebody's not coachable, and if not, then how do you overcome that?
Yeah, so I think it's very easy to look at people on the surface and assume that they're uncoachable. I haven't found one yet. I've been able, and maybe I'm just fortunate that I've been surrounded by good, talented people. My feeling is that in the companies that we work, and the people who choose to work in innovative companies, they all have talents. People with no value and bring no talent to the table and no drive don't end up working in innovative product development companies. So I really think it's important to go in with that assumption that everybody around you has the ability to add some value to your team. And ultimately, you do need to decide how much time am I going to invest in certain people. But that's where I would partner with the individual's functional manager to make those kinds of decisions. So start at a point where you're assuming that everybody's coachable. If you think you're not getting the return, then it's time to partner with their functional manager. And maybe it's simply that two heads are better than one. If you're not able to get performance out of a person that you're trying to lead, very likely that manager is struggling with that individual as well. And so if you can work together on the person, then you probably have a better shot. Generally, managers don't like firing people. I think most managers in the product development space, they want to have successful people working for them. And if you as a product manager can help those functional managers get the most out of their people, then that's a great way to build a good rapport with those other managers around you.
Great, great. Next question, we're going to go to Andrew.
Hey, I was wondering, I feel like this is all good advice, but I was wondering, how would you do this with a remote team where, I feel like there's a lot more effort and it's exponentially harder to, get results from the team or build relationships and things like that?
Yeah, so it's different with a remote team. I think that in one respect, it makes it a bit easier to grant your remote team some more autonomy and give them more creative freedom, because you don't have that tendency to try to micromanage. The key to me with a remote team is making sure that you've got talented people. And if you've got somebody remote who doesn't have the skills required to do what you're asking of them, then you probably need to take a look at that situation, because you're not going to be able to spend as much time coaching that individual to raise the performance as you might otherwise. So my recommendation on a remote team would be to really make sure that you've got the right skill sets in place. When you're face-to-face with people, you can spend a lot more time directly developing those skills, and you just can't make that investment when it's a remote situation.
Great. And next we're going to go to Felix.
So what do you do if you're in a situation it works well enough when you're relating to people on your team. But say if there are third parties, or let's say, for example, the director of R&D or engineering has very different styles, very different opinions about where things should go, and naturally you lead to conflict, where it's not a matter of supporting each other or making sure you guys do the right work, but what's happening is that this person is undermining your leadership, and also, you know, you might be undermining theirs, and you can't be a servant to them, but you need to be able to, you know, lead the team in a direction, and you can't just roll over and not do anything. What do?
So my recommendation would be to work with that other individual to find some common ground. I've had cases where it seemed like we disagreed on every single point that you could come up with, just completely on different pages. And I remember one example where closed door meeting with an individual, and they had done something, and it was well within my rights to completely dress that person down. But instead, I held back, and we spent about 2 hours talking around each other before we finally both recognized and both came to the realization that we wanted the same things. We were both scared that if we didn't get this particular product right, that our company was going to lay off a bunch of people. We completely disagreed on how to develop that product that was going to save the company, but we finally found common ground as to the fact that we were both trying to solve the same problem. And once we reached that bit of common ground, and it took about 2 hours of arguing before we got there, but once we had that common ground, we had a starting point. And you just continue to build and build on that one piece of common ground that you're able to find. And it's a long process. But I don't know another way to get there when you're dependent on people that you can't control.
Good answer, thanks.
Great. Next is Anthony.
Hi. So, as a relatively junior product manager, I think the desire to lead by expertise also comes from the perception that as a new manager, you don't bring very much value or experience to the table. So I really empathize by the desire to lead by expertise. You know, what unique guidance would you give to a junior product manager to help build or inspire your team's confidence?
So I've hired a lot of entry-level product managers, and I'll answer the question this way, that I tend to look for 3 things when I'm interviewing a product manager. Those 3 things are expertise in the domain. So I'm looking to see whether this individual's experience with our technologies and/or our markets. I'm looking at their grasp of product management fundamentals. Has this person, if they're an entry-level product manager, have they done some homework? Have they done a bit of training to know what the fundamental skills of a product manager are? And then the third is the ability to vision, the ability to see into the future. And it's rare that you're going to find a first-time junior-level product manager who checks all 3 of those boxes. But if you can be one who checks 2 of them, you're going to be very successful as a first-time product manager. If you can check 1 of them, you probably got a good shot. And so take a look at, you know, in those 3 areas, where can you add value? If you're a product manager who doesn't know much about the technology and market, but you have the ability to vision into the future, then work that strength. If you are in a new market and you don't know anything about these customers, but you know how to do product management, work those fundamentals and make those the most important thing. Make those your brand. And people will have a compelling reason to follow you, even though you're not the complete package.
Great. And another question comes from Vernon Williams. Do the same skills you use with your team help you manage up when you have to work with your management?
They do. So I think it's a similar perspective that you can take. And I always joke with people that one of my jobs is to make my boss look good. And it's the same idea with my peers on my team and entry-level people on my team. If, as the product manager, if I put my energy into making others around me look good, then I'm on the right path. If I'm giving my leaders valuable information, I'm helping them make good decisions. Not allowing them to be surprised by things. I'm keeping them informed. If there's an angry customer, making sure that as soon as I learn about it, I call my boss right away because that customer might be coming for them next. Those are the things that allow you to build credibility and influence upward.
Yeah, great points. Great points. And as always, for those of you who've also been asking, the presentation that you guys, everyone just saw, will also be posted to our SlideShare channel. So you can definitely check it out there. And again, thanks to our speaker, Dustin Levy. This was a really great talk, and I think I picked up a book or two from this that I'll be reading very shortly. Dustin's the Director of Product Management at Gentex Corporation, and he just relationship and influence for product managers. And again, a big thank you from me, Jeremy Horn, the product guy, for joining us today. Whether you came from the product group, the rest of the internet, Periscope, or whatever brought you to us today, thank you for joining us. And looking forward to seeing everyone at our next live stream. We have a regular schedule, so definitely check that out. And also, don't forget, we're always if you'd like to be a mentor, just like Dustin, we're looking for mentors and product people of all sorts. So please sign up at theproductmentor.com. Sign up today. And also, if you're looking to fill a new product job with a great product person, we have a free job board for really all sort of product people. You can check that out and use it. It's all free at theproductjobs.com. And once again, thank you guys, and talk to you all next time. Bye.